Go to Morocco. Go to Morocco. Okay, anyway, we're in the middle of a sugya, right? We're on with the today's daf is Yud Ches. We're in the middle of a sugya that Re- Rabbi Eliezer said. The Mishnah said if you did kmitza or a mincha to eat something that's not normally eaten, like eating the kaimetz or eating the levina, or or burning the shrayim, but that thing be what the halacha be. Rabbi Eliezer passed. Where did he get this apostle from? He said a double lashon. It said im heyochel yochel b'shtei achilas hakasim medaber. It's speaking about two separate achilas. It's speaking about two separate achilas. And one is achilas mizbeach and one's achilas adam. And even if you machshev from one to the other, the Gemara has the kasha. If that's the case, then why does he say puzzle, which is only the rabbanon? He should puzzle the carbon. He should say that you chayv karis the raisa. If he's bringing a biblical source, you should be chayiv deraisa, right? So we brought in. I think I'm going to go over it again. We should see it inside again. Go quickly. Okay. So the Gemara wants to suggest machlokes tanoim in according to Rabbi Eliezer, and our Mishnah would obviously go according to the opinion that you're not chayiv karis, and according to the one who says that what it's deraisa, hey, you be chayiv karis. So let's start from Yud Zayin Amid Beis, a little above the halfway point. The first words on the line is tanoihi. Tanai here leave it to Rabbi Eliezer. Machlokes time according to Rabbi Eliezer, if you go ahead and you have a machshava of something that's not normally eaten, whether you be chayiv pasol or chayiv carbs. Iklamani absul deraisa, iklamani absul drabonan. The Tanya. Hashoich. That's the case. Hashoich is a zevach lishtois midamay lemachar. Someone goes ahead, he shechs a zevach, and he has in mind to drink the blood the next day. Obviously, this is parallels the case of going ahead and eating the levina. You're doing something that's not normally eaten. Lahaktim ibsari lamacha, or to go ahead and burn the basta the next day. This would be the same thing as burning the shirayim, right? So this is a parallel from a dam carbon to a mincha. Now, lechem emurav lamacha kasha. It's kasha. That's the Tanakama. Since it's not something that's right, it's not normal. It's the davish not normal. That's kosher. Rabbi Eliezer paisel. Rabbi Eliezer says paisel. Okay, that's by what? By having in mind eating. How about le'niach midamay lemachar? I shech the carbon. I'm not. It's. I didn't have in mind to do this rika tomorrow. I had in mind to leave the carbon. I'm not going to do this rika, which would be pigel. I'm going to stop short but leaving it. Le'niach damay lemachar. Rabbi Yehuda paisel. Rabbi Yehuda says what? It's puzzle. Rabbi Yehuda says it's puzzle. Now, Amar Rabbi Elazar ben Shamua, Af Bezu Rabbi Eliezer ben Hyrcanus. So we have a Tana, Rabbi Elazar ben Shamua, stating and explaining the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer ben Hyrcanus who says puzzle. Af Bezu Rabbi Eliezer puzzle, v'chomim machshirim. So you have machloikas between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Elazar in the shita of Rabbi Eliezer. Okay? L'chayra. According to Rabbi Eliezer, according to Rabbi Yehuda, it's puzzle. According to Rabbi Eliezer, it's a machlokes. It's a machlokes. Rabbi Yehuda's mashma, everyone holds it's puzzle. It's not a machlokes. Rabbi Yehuda aliba deman. Now, Rabbi Yehuda is saying, who do he say puzzle according to? Ilema de Rabbanon. If you're going to tell me he said it according to the Rabbanon, who say it's kosher by achila, hashtem, uma chasam. Uma chasam. By my hasam, by drinking the kamachshe b'loshen achila, machshe rabbanon, drinking the blood, the chacham say, in other words, blood is not something normally eaten, but it's more shayach than of pigel, a machshava there to passel than to leave the blood, right? Think about it, guys. By leaving the blood, achila is in achila is leaving the blood. I have in mind to drink the blood tomorrow. So obviously, I did have blood left over tomorrow. Yes? So if you're going to tell me, achila the chacham hold what is kasha, certainly just leaving it over it's kasha. So Rabbi Yehuda can't say puzzle according to the chachamim. Because the chacham would say it's kasha if you had a mind to leave the blood over tomorrow. Lenny, we're going over yesterday's daf, the last machlokes. So hacha by leaving over like kol shekain, they would say it's kasha. Ella, who did Rabbi Eliezer say his din according to? Who did Rabbi Yehuda say his din according to? I'll leave it to Rabbi Eliezer, who says it's puzzle by achila. V'amar Rabbi Elazar af bezu, even by leaving it over, Rabbi Eliezer puzzle. Rabbi says possible, Chachamim machshirim. Okay, so not only do they argue what by drinking, they also have the same machlokes by leaving it over. Rebbe Laza, Hein Rebbe Yehuda, L'chayra, Rebbe Laza is Rebbe Yehuda. They're both saying it's possible. Elolav, what must the difference be? Karis ikabinayo, the karis. The Rebbe Yehuda Savar, Rebbe Yehuda is of the opinion, Leniach Psula Ba'alma, leaving it over as puzzle. Bahanach, by drinking, Karis Nami Machayev. Vasa Rebbe Laza L'meimar, Idi, whether it's drinking or leaving over, puzzle vein by karis. So, in other words, now you had a kasha. There should be a chi of karis because Rebbe Eliezer is of the opinion that it's midaraisa. That's totally in the machlokes between Rebbe Yehuda and Rebbe Laza. Light Rebbe Yehuda, you'll be chayiv karis. And Rebbe Yehuda and Rebbe Laza, guys, a little mixing up. You have two names arguing in Rebbe Eliezer. That's what you have to know. The first name is Rebbe Yehuda. The second name is Rebbe Laza. Rebbe Laza ben Shemua. So, light Rebbe Yehuda, light Rebbe Eliezer, you'll be chayiv karis if you go ahead and what and you eat. You have a mind to go ahead and eat the blood, right? And eat the blood. And light Rebbe Laza, no, it still be possible. So you want to suggest that that's a machlokes tanoim to answer the kasha. Again, what's the kasha? If Rabbi Eliezer's source is a pasuk, it should be more than pasuk, which is the Rabbanon. It should be Chederaisa, and we're answering it's machlokes tanoim. Now, we're going to interpret this machlokes a different way, and as the interpreter, we're going to say it has nothing to do with karis. Says the Gemara, no. Right. The Kuli Alma Leka. No one holds this karis. The Kuli Alma karis Leka. V'hacha. And this brisa, by what? Whether to leave the blood over is a 3-year machlokes. Okay, let's see the 3-year machlokes. Guys, everyone holds drinking the blood is a machlokes. Who is there? Who's making noise? I can't hear. That was noisy. Here, this is the machlokes explained, guys. Drinking blood or burning meat. The Tanakhama says the Chacham says kasha because it's not the normal way of eating. You can see this clearly. I'll make it a little larger, right? And Rabbi Lazar says it's pasul, but goiza, Rabbi Lazar is goiza atu machshava kedarko. In other words, if I allow you to go ahead and eat meat that you had a machshava of burning, you might come to go ahead and eat meat that you had machshava of eating. So therefore, we guys are burning at eating. You know, that's what the shita is pasul. Rabbi Yehuda, according to Rabbi Elazar, agrees. According to Rabbi Elazar, in other words, they all agree by what? That there's a machlokes by eating and burning. Guys, good? It's this pligi is the same as that. It's the same machlokes. Here's the 3-year machlokes. The 3-year machlokes is by leaving it over. According to the Tanakhama, even though they argue by drinking blood and burning meat, they would disagree. They would agree leaving over the blood. They be a kol kasha. Because there's no machshava of achila, there's no reason to make a gezerah. The gezerah over here is you're going to go ahead and eat emurim, you may eat meat, right? In other words, there's a reason to be goyz one or to the other. Mashenkin over here, since there is no achila, it's just leaving over, there's no reason to make a gezerah. Divrei kol kasha. That's the first shita. The second shita. That's Rabbi Yehuda according to Rabbi Eliezer. The opposite of this shita, divrei kol pasul. Everyone holds this puzzle because with goyim miktsas damu at the kulei damu. Rabbi Yehuda is of the opinion if you leave over all of the blood, guys, it's puzzle. It's a Gemara Lamed Vav in Zvachim that if you go ahead and leave over the whole blood, it's puzzle. So the guys are leaving over part of the blood to leaving over the whole blood, and Rabbi Elazar, according to Rabbi Eliezer, says they still argue. So here's your 3 machlokes: kasha, puzzle, argue, and that's by leaving over the blood. So this is the explanation of the machlokes, but it's not chiyav kares, not chiyav kares. So in answer to your question that you wanted to say, according to Rabbi Eliezer, it should be a chi of karis, and you want to say it's a machlokes tanoim, it's no machlokes tanoim. Here's the machlokes tanoim, and it has nothing to do with karis, guys. It has to do whether it's they argue or don't argue. So that kasha will remain a kasha. We're not going to answer it. Light Rebbe Eliezer, if it's midiraisa a pasuk, why is it only pasuk the rabbanan shbichai deraisa? Guys, good that? In other words, our attempted terrorist that we attempted saying some machlokes tanoim is out. Now we're just explaining the machlokes, and here we go. We'll go through it. Let's go through it now. Says the machlokes. Gimel machlokes v'dava. By leaving over the blood. Tanakh Sava bahanach, only by drinking blood. Pligi. Laniach, but to leave over the blood. Dibya kol kasha. Everyone holds its kasha. Rabbi Yehuda Savar, Bahanach by drinking blood, Pligi, that's what they argue. Laniach, they call pasul, the exact opposite. My timer, that's the reason. Gezerah mixas damu, what to call damai. If we allow you to go ahead and leave over part blood, and it would say it's kasha, we may go ahead and do machsha when you leave over all the blood, and all the blood is asa. To call dami. The call dami psulim with the raisa the Tanya. Amal Rabbi Yehuda iyat hamoydem li shemenichel lemacha shepasel. Chishav laniach lemacha nami pasel. If you leave over all of it, it's pasel. So too, if you leave over, if you would leave it over physically, it's pasel. So too, leaving it over, thinking about leaving it over is also pasel. The asa Rebbe Lazal lemeimar af bezu Rebbe Eliezer pasel. Uvechachamim machshirin. Over here, it's a machlokes. So now you have those are the sheetas. There you go, guys. You have the sheetas in front of you. They all agree there's a machlokes by drinking the blood, the machlokes by leaving over the blood, the vehicle kasha, the vehicle pasal, and according to Rebbe Laza in Rebbe Eliezer, it's a machlokes. Good. If you want to see the chart of Rabbi Kornfeld, you'll see tomorrow's blog. Because I guarantee you, he's not good. It's a little clearer. I admit it, but hey, says the Gemara. but Frag the Gemara, the Sav Rabbi Yehuda laniach midamei lamacha dirya kol pasul. And does Rabbi Yehuda say that leaving over the blood for the next day, everyone holds its pasul? Okay, guys, you hear that everyone holds its pasul. That second line in the chart, pasul. You saying that? So we have a little agadata, but even the agadata in Menachos is hard agadata. You're going to see what I mean in a second. Vatanya. Amar Rebbe, says Rebbe, Kesholachti lematzos midoisav etzel Rebbe Elazar ben Shamua, v'milo lemitzvos midoisav shel Rebbe Elazar ben Shamua. So he went over, literally, the article tight, he went to drain his measure. In other words, he wanted to check out his Torah. He wanted to check out his Torah by Rebbe Elazar. Rashi says, interesting Rashi. Says Rashi, the first right, Leida mitzui talmudai, shos feikusai, to go ahead and literally squeeze out all his talmidim, all his questions. Or the second shot is lamatzos midaisav, to learn from the teachings of Rebbe Elazar, who was a bigger chacham than him. Why Rebbe Elazar is a bigger chacham than him? So he went to Rebbe went to Rabbi Elazar ben Shmuel, and V'imila, okay. Matsasi Yosef Abavli, Yosef Fana says, Rebbe, I found Yosef Abavli sitting in front of Rebbe. Rashi says first pshat that Rabbi Yosef was very dear to Rebbe Elazar ben Shmuel. Ad la'achas. Amalai, Yosef Abavli said, Rebbe, Amalai, Rebbe, in other words, Yosef Abavli said to Rebbe Elazar ben Shmuel, Hashoichet ez azevach, lo niach mi damay lemachar. If you shech the carbon, to leave the blood over tomorrow, mahu. Mahu, what's the din? Good. So this is, now, guys, we want to know, we have three pshatim, kasha, pasal, machloikis, right? Now, Rebbe Elazar ben Shamua, what did he learn, guys? Guys, what did Rebbe Elazar ben Shamua learn? Here, you got it right here in front of you. Rebbe Elazar ben Shamua, citing Rebbe Eliezer, held it was a machlokes. He held it was a machlokes, guys, right? This is that they argue. So this is the shita we care about. The shita we care about is, he said it's a machlokes, right? He said it's a machlokes, yes? Good? Now, Amalai, so Rebbe Elazar ben Shamua told Yosef Abavli, Kasha. So Shachar Amla Kasha, Sarayim Amla Kasha, Mincha Arvis Amla Kasha. Arvis he said is Kasha. Ella she Rabbi Eliezer skipped down Poisel, but Rabbi Eliezer passel. So he said Kasha, 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 and then he said Rabbi Eliezer said it's passel. Savu Panashal Yosef Abavli. Yosef Abavli's face was beaming. Amaloi, Rabbi Elazar ben Shmuel said, Yosef, Kimedumani, Shloi Kivnanu Shemaitanu Shmuel Seinu, Arata. It seems like until now you didn't think that what? I was telling you the halacha. So Amaloi, so Yosef retorted to Rabbi Elazar ben Shmuel, no, Hein, Rabbi Hein. I know you weren't telling me the halacha, that the halacha is not like that. Ella, I know you said kasha. So in other words, when he said puzzle, so Yosef Babi must have thought that's the halacha. And until he got Rebbe Elazar ben Shmuel to say it, and he's saying, no, I know that wasn't the halacha. I know that. However, Elish Rebbe Yehuda puzzle Shanali. My Rebbe Yehuda Bar Eloi, he taught me puzzle, and you're telling me kasha. V'chazarti al kut mudav, and I chazed over all my limudim, ubikashli chaver, and I was looking for a friend who said that's possible like Rabbi Yehuda, v'lei matzasi, and I didn't find anyone. Achshav sheshanisa li pasal, now that you told me pasal, hichzarti li avoidase, you returned my avoida. I thought I'd lost my learning, I thought I forgot, because you're telling me kasha. I had heard from Rabbi Yehuda pasal, and now when you said Rabbi Eliezer said what? That it's pasal, great. So Zolgu, listen, this is a beautiful Gemara, guys. Zolgu ein of the Moshe Rebbe Elazar ben Shmuel. Rebbe Elazar ben Shmuel started crying. He got all emotional. He started crying. Omar, after he saw the appearance of that Savu Panov, Yosef Babi's face was shining. Omar, Ashreichim Talmidei Chachamim shedivrei Torah chaviv malechem b'Yosef. Karav alav hamikra zeh mo hafi torasecha kol hayam yisachi. How beautiful is Torah kol hayam yisichasi. Right, a famous song that we know. So this is now. Why? He told him, "Ha mifnei Rabbi Yehuda b'noish Rabbi Eloi." Ha means the reason that this was taught, even though it's not the halacha. Guys, you hear? The halacha is it's kasha, but you're so excited here. It's puzzle. Why did Rabbi Yehuda teach you it's puzzle? Because Rabbi Yehuda benoish Rabbi Eloi Talmidish Rabbi Eliezer, lefikach shanalai mishnah Rabbi Eliezer. He taught the mishnah of Rabbi Eliezer who said it's puzzle. So even though that's not the halacha, now there's something that's not right over here. Rabbi Yehuda Bar Eloi taught him Rabbi Eliezer says it's puzzle, right? And v'isal kedaitach divrei akol puzzle isnaya. So what did he tell him? What did he tell him, fellas? Rabbi Yehuda said, Divrei Kol Pasal, right? And you taught him that you told him that Rabbi Eliezer apostles, that it's a machlokes. So why was Rabbi Yosef Abadi so happy? He didn't tell him what his Rabbi taught him. Rabbi Yehuda taught him what Rabbi Yehuda taught him that it's possible, and the Chachamim argue. But Rabbi Yehuda himself held that what? Everyone holds it's possible. Everyone holds it's possible. So, but what did he restore to him? Iyu plukta ka'amalei. He, Rabbi Elazar ben Shmuel himself said it's machlokes. So, guys, look, that he taught him this. Rabbi Elazar ben Shmuel told him it's not true. He told him it's a machlokes. He told him Rabbi Eliezer says it's possible. This is what Rabbi Elazar ben Shmuel told Rabbi Yosef Bavli. This is what Rabbi Yehuda taught Rabbi Yosef Bavli. So why was Yosef Bavli so happy? It's conflicting. Hechzati li tarasi means you brought back to me what you taught me, but it's not true. I was taught Divrei Kol Pasal. You're telling me only Rabbi Eliezer holds it's pasal, but everyone holds it's what? It's kasha. It's a machlokes. Guys, you got that? Did you get that? I use the chart as a means. If I, let's say okay, let me use football as an example. Okay, so you had a Messiah from your Rebbe. That's the example that what Bill Belichick does not belong in the Hall of Fame. Okay, you have such a Messiah from your Rebbe, right? Meanwhile, it's a big machlokes whether he belongs or not. So now you come somewhere and the guy says, Bill Belichick, right? Bill Belichick does he belong in the Hall of Fame? Yes. Does he belong in the Hall of Fame? Yes. Does he belong in the Hall of Fame? Yes. And then it finally says, no. So 1 second. I know you taught me no, he doesn't belong in. And now you're telling me yes, no, that's machlokes? You're not restoring to me exactly what I was taught. I was taught something else. Lahavdil, elef avdolis, that's the case. But for some reason, I think people understand it a little better now. Okay, so that's the machlekes again. Just one more time in the chart, guys. One more time. Yosef Ababli is sitting with Rebbe Laza. He's telling him kasha, 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 and then he says, "Oh no, well, there's an opinion that it's puzzle. That's pligi, guys. That's pligi. Good. Now, Rabbi Yehuda, you told him Rabbi Yehuda taught me what? Rabbi Yehuda taught me that Rabbi Yehuda said everyone holds his puzzle. So if Rabbi Yosef Ababli heard this, why was he happy when he heard this? That's not what he was taught. It's two different things. That's what I told you. It's a garata that's not so easy. Okay? But now hopefully it's easier now. Okay. So it says the Gemara. Now, Ela my kasha, what are you going to say? It's a machlokes for Rebbe Lezer puzzle, and puzzle is naya. Ihachi my hayim ifnei, ananami plukta kamesnina. In other words, in the Agadata, why did he teach you puzzle? Because he was a Talmud of Rebbe Eliezer. But really, that's the halacha. So, what do you mean? You're telling me he only taught you, he taught to you the non-halacha because he loved his Rebbe. But that is the machlekes, if that's the case. Says the Gemara, Elohim dirya kol pasol snaya. Hitaka was taught, like we said, from Yehuda, everyone's puzzle. Umach zati levidasi, why was he so happy? The hadleimiyah shum pasas bailam. Okay. Comes along a Rebbe, and he hears, what does Rebbe do? Kasha, 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 kasha. Finally, but one person holds its puzzle. So you're right. He was taught everyone holds its puzzle. But you were saying all along, kasha, kasha, kasha. So he thought he lost it. Rabbi Yosef Ababli thought he lost it, guys. Because you're telling me kasha, but I heard puzzle. Not only did I hear puzzle, I heard everyone holds its puzzle. Everyone agrees it's puzzle. Comes along finally, Rebbe Eliezer Shu and say, nah, and Rebbe Eliezer says it's puzzle. So he was so happy. At least somebody holds its puzzle. In other words, he wasn't happy that you told him the exact thing. It's not the exact thing. He heard this. He heard this. Everyone was saying this. So he said, 1 second, that's a complete opposite. Kasha. If I heard puzzle, I heard everyone else it's puzzle. You're telling me it's kasha? Comes along Rebbe Laza and tells him, you know what, pligi, there's an opinion that what it's puzzle. Baruch Hashem. At least there's one opinion it's puzzle. That's why he was happy. So he was happy that there is a puzzle, even though what? It's not the exact thing that he was learned. I hope that was clear. I hope that was clear. Okay, nice. Okay,
you did lose Nussin with the Bill Belichick Marshall.
Well, but he's not here. Okay, anyway, here we go. You know, I told you when you do the beginning of reviews of things, you always people are going to go ahead and tell you what the minchas is and everything you have to know. And by the time you get around to it, you forget it. I'm going to do a part for today's Mishnah. It's necessary to do part. In addition, it's necessary to correct something I told David Friedman yesterday. Okay, and you'll see the correction. Okay, here's the chart. This is the order of what how a mincha is working. This is the way a mincha worked, fellas. I don't need this chart. I need the other chart. I need this chart. Okay. Right side. Isaran, a mincha is bought from an Isaran Asilis and a Lake Shemen. You would now, the Kohen would take from that loig, you take a little bit and put it in a kli. Then you put the silas on top. This you know all along. Then you do yitzika. That's you put a little shemen in. Then you do belila, you mix it. You then put it in a kli sharis. It's machloikis whether we saw yesh machloikis and belila tzricha kli sharis or not. Machloikis the Rambam, we saw that earlier. Now, then you take the rest of the oil and you pour it in. After you do belila, you pour in the rest of the oil. Good? Then you put on that mixture on top, you put the levina. Then the kohen goes ahead. He takes that pan and he brings it to the southwest corner, Myrish Dremis Marabis, Myrish Dros, and he touches up to the point. He then does kemitza. Then he puts the kaimitz in a klishares, and this is what yesterday I told David, which is incorrect. Then you put the all of the levina you put on that kaimitz. So that's when it was the kli echad. I said yesterday the kli echad was at the earlier point. No, when you're going to be makta the kaimitz, in that kli, the levina is in that kli already. The levina is in that kli already. You look, guys, if you're interested, saita, you're dalin on the base. So this is the point I'm correcting from yesterday. The levina is in the kli shares. It is in the kli shares. They would then do malicha. They would put salt on top of it on the kaimitz, and then they would burn it. So again, we're going to be discussing today. I'm not going to bring in the other karbanis. I'll keep it for a later date. We're going to be discussing this yitzika belila. Okay, so you have the process now of how the carbon is brought. You have the process of how the carbon, the physical mitzias of how the carbon is brought. Lo yatzak. Let's say you didn't do yitzika. You didn't pour the oil in, that extra oil. You didn't put the oil in a little bit. V'loi bolal. You didn't mix it. V'loi posas. You didn't. If it was the carbon that had to be broken into pieces, a machvas, a marcheshes, mafe sanor, and you failed to go ahead and put it into pieces. V'loi molach. You didn't put salt on it. V'loi hanaf. You didn't go ahead and do tenufa. There's certain karbanis, the oimer and the saita needs tenufa. Like Higish, you didn't bring it to the southwest corner. Oisha pasasan pisam merubais, pasam rubais. So you went ahead and you broke it up into big pieces. Pasha, we'll see what that means. For like mashchan, if it's a carbon that you had to pour through mashicha after it was made, you put oil on it, right? Sheret in all these cases is kasha. So it's mashma that you don't need tzika at all, you don't need belila at all, you don't need any of these things. Okay, says the Gemara. My lo yatzak. What does mean lo yatzak? Ilem lo yatzak klal. If you're going to tell me you don't need yitzika at all, ikuva ksivbei. It's in the parsha. Rashi says it's ma'akiv, because in the parsha it says twice yitzika, and anything that's repeated is to be ma'akiv. So since it's repeated, it's ma'akiv. So you can't tell me when it says lo yatzak you didn't do it all. So what must it mean? Elu lo yatzak kayin elazar. So if the yitzika was done by a non-koyin, right? And Yisika was done by a non-koyin, it's kasha. If it wasn't done at all, it's takapasul. If it was done ayidei zar, right? If it was done ayidei zar, then it would be what? It would be okay. So, as we're going to see, it says from kemitza and onward, it says lashon of koyin. Kemitza and onwards, it says the lashon of koyin, right? So obviously, hagasha can't be done, but it has to be done by the kohen. But l'chayra, we're going to see that there's an opinion that yitzika can be done by a zar because it's said before the kemitza. Okay, we're going to see that Bez Hashem in today in the daf. So according to this opinion, when it says la yatzak, it doesn't mean you didn't do yitzika at all. It means you didn't do yitzika. You didn't do yitzika through a kohen, but rather a zar. Yihachi Fred the Gemara, to be consistent. If that's the case, loy bolol nami, loy bolol koyin, elazar. Mashma that what? That the belila was done, but it was done by a zar and not a koyin. Just like it's sika by a zar, so to belila. In other words, we want the Mishnah to be consistent cases. Elazar says more halay bolol klal psula. Mashma, just like if you didn't do yitzika, it's puzzle. If you didn't do belila, if you didn't mix it, it's puzzle. So now we have a very famous term. But Tanan, Shishim Nivlalim, Shishim Ve'echad Ein Nivlalim. If a person wants, again, the share of the mincha guys is one isarin per one loig shemen. If a person wanted to go ahead and bring a bigger mincha, he could bring up to 60 esroinim. Rashi in his first Peshat said, because 60 esroinim, it's possible to do belila with one loig shemen. 61 esroinim, it's not possible. So therefore, now, what's the difference? The ein nevlalim, if you don't have to mix it up, v'avinaba ki ein nevlalim I have v'tanan leibol kshera. So what's the difference, guys? 60 is kasha, even if you don't do belila. 61 also should be kasha because you're not going to do belila. Says the Gemara of Rabbi Zera, kalaroy lebila. This is put in many places in Shas. Anything that you possibly could go ahead and mix, ein bila makevis, not a problem. The chosha ein roy lebila, but anything that you can't mix, bila makevis. In other words, you have to have pas b'saloi. You have to have the ability to do something. If I have the ability to do it, even if I don't do it, it's kasha. If I can't do it, it's pasul. So, but what do you see from this, guys? That you don't have to belila. You see from here, you don't have to do belila. So that's the kasha, right? You're telling me on one hand that what yitzika cannot mean that you don't do yitzika. It must be a zar. If that's the case, it must be belila. Must be what? That you didn't do it at all, but through a zar. But one second. Belila, even if you didn't do it, it's kasha. As long as it's within 60 esrainim, it's kasha. And for the Gemara, midi area, hakadisa, no, don't get caught up. Even though it's in the same Mishnah, it means it's speaking two different mitzvahs. Lo yatzak means lo yatzak kayin, elazar. Lo yatzak means lo yatzak elazar. Leibolo means leibolo klal. Leibolo means not at all. Okay, so that's the. So going back to the Mishnah, we have a new taich. Lo yatzak means a kohen doesn't do the yitzika, but a zar does. But if no yitzika, it'll be pasul. Leibolo means leibolo klal. Means leibolo won't be bolo at all. Now, and the Mishnah said, well, you pasul and pitim merubais, big pieces. Hashtale pasus klal. If you tell me kshera pitim merubay, right? If you didn't do psita at all, it'd be kasha. So now you're telling me big pieces is worse. Why would it be worse if it's big pieces? Says Gemara, my pitim merubay sheriba b'siyasa means that you made too many pieces. It's not mean that you made big pieces. It means you made small pieces. So therefore, since you made small pieces, right, you would think. So you would think that you're missing a share. People say, pieces merubais mamish is big pieces. When you don't do it at all, when you don't do it at all, you can call it chala. Abul hacha, the light teres chalas, it's not teres chala. The light teres psitin, and it's not psitin because it's smaller. Kamash malon, that it's still good. In other words, guys, like this, you have these big cakes. You have 10 cakes, let's say, of a afe sanor that you're going to break up into pieces. If you don't break it up at all, it's kasha. Why? Because it's a challah. If I break it up into the kazayas pieces, it's psitin. If I do something in the middle, it's nishtahi and nishtaher. So I would say nishtahi, nishtaher is pasul. Kamashma in the Mishnah, the chiddush is it's kasha. Okay, now, leinim masnisin like Reb Shimon. Let's say our Mishnah is not like Reb Shimon, right? Our Mishnah is going to not be like Reb Shimon. The Tanya, Reb Shimon Oimer. In other words, Reb Shimon is going to hold that Yitzika Zar, guys, is no good. So here's the end of the Gemara. I'll give you the last page of the book. Reb Shimon is talking not the Tana of the Mishnah. He's not the Tana of the Mishnah. We're going to try to go ahead and make him the Tana, but he's not going to be the Tana of the Mishnah. Good? Now, where do you see that? Tanya. How can Reb Shimon not be the Tana of the Mishnah? Tanya, Reb Shimon Oimer. Kol koyin she'ena moide ba'avoida. Any koyin is not moide ba'avoida. He doesn't believe in the avoida. Ein lechelik bekahuna is nishkan koyin. Shenemar hamakr bes dam hashlamim bes hachelev mibnei aroin lo yisiya shoyka yimin. Someone who's makriv, someone who believes in the shlamim and the avoida, that he would get what the chaz of a shoyk. Moida ba'avoida yesh lechelik bekahuna. Shein moida ba'avoida ein lechelik bekahuna. He doesn't get a chelik in the matnas kahuna. Ve'en li elazu belvad. Minayin, that would only be mashma the chaz of a shoyk. Minayin l'rabbe's test of avoidas, 15 avoidas. What are the 15? Hayitzikois, va'belilois, va'psisois, that we've touched already. Melichois, we know. Tanufais is waving. Hagosh is southwest. Kemitzois, haktorois, melikois, kabalois, vazois, the spritzing. Hashaka soita, va'rifas egla, decapitating the egla. The tyrus mitzoira, unasias kapayim, the duchening, bein bifnim, bein b'chutz. Minayin, that's a total of 15. If you look at Taisus for a second, the Taisus, the second Taisus where it gets wide, Minayin Rabbi's Teso Avoidos. If you go down 3 lines in the middle, Miu Kasha, the Katiyik Avoidos Tuva, going Trumas Adeshen, Sidor Maracha, Shnei Gizu Eitzim, Dishim Mizbeach Pnimi, Menoira, Lechem Aponim, Zichig Levoina, V'yeshnaim at the time of Shaya. And usually you have a number there, and you use a ton of it. In other words, we left out many. We left out many, okay? Just be aware. The bottom line is, where's the kasha from, guys? It says Yitzikos, right? So it's Mashma the Kohen has the Yitzika, not a Zar. Amish said a Zar is kasha, b'di Eved, right? Says the Gemara. So how do you know? Minayin, Tamad Laima, B'nei Aaron, Avoidam Mesura B'nei Aaron. Kol Kohen Shein Moidaba Ein Lachelik B'Chuna. So what's the kasha? You, the Mishnah said, you learn Peshat. La Yotzik means you didn't do it at all. But as Zar did do it, it's kasha. Reb Shimon can't be the time of the Mishnah. Because Reb Shimon says, Yitzika al Yedei has to be al Yedei Kayin. Rav Nachman like kasha, Kam b'minchas kahanim, Kam b'minchas Yisrael. Minchas kahanim does not require kmitza. It's totally burnt. Minchas Yisrael requires kmitza. Right? It requires kmitza. So, Minchas Yisrael, the bas kmitza, he, right? A Minchas Yisrael, that's the bas kmitza, the kmitza ve'elech, mitzvah kahuna. Limit al yitzika b'lila shek sheira bizarre. In other words, as we saw, the only time you need a kohen, guys, is from step number 9. But anything before, Hagash will be problematic. I don't know how he'd go over it. Maybe he could go over there. But putting the Lavoin in the plate, all these things, since it's before Kemitza, would be okay. Right? That's before, it would be okay. That what happens if the kohen does not require Kemitza? If a korban doesn't require Kemitza, then you need a kohen. Then what? Then the Yitzika, that Yitzika, since there's no Kemitza, right, we require a kohen. So that's the Rav Nachman's teretz. Kan b'minchas kahanim, that's where you need to seek as dafka de koyin. Kan b'minchas Yisrael, that's kosher bizarre. Minchas kahanim v'labas kamitzahi meikara boy kahuna. Minchas kahanim, which you're not going to do kamitza on, right? Needs a koyin. Amalei rova michti. Minchas kahanim mehecha esrabe liyitzika. Where do you know the mincha of a kohen that you did yitzika at all? Minchas Yisrael. Mahasam ksheir bizarre. Avhachanam ksheir bizarre. So kasha. You want to make a distinction that only the yitzika is only by what, by minchas. That you need a minchas kohen in yitzika, you learn that from minchas Yisrael. So just like minchas Yisrael is a zar, so to minchas kahanim is zar. So this is not a good teretz, guys. It's not a good teretz because a kohen should need a zar should be kosher even by minchas kohen. Dami, Amar Rav Nachman, like Kasha, Kam b'nik matzais, Kam b'sheinik matzais. It's the same teretz. The only nafkamina minchas nesachim, guys. The second teretz, first teretz is minchas kahanim. The second teretz would be the one that does not require kmitza. That would include what? The minchas nesachim. That's what the second teretz is getting over the first. Minchas nesachim does not require kmitza. Amalei Rava Michti, sheinik matzais mehechen esrabe, liyitzika, minik matzais. So kinik matzah, they should have the same din of a mincha that requires a kmitza. Mahasam ksher bizar, avhachanami ksher bizar. Ella, you have to say mechavarta. It's clear. Masnisan deloik Rev Shimon. The mission is not like Rev Shimon. Okay, Bez Hashem.